I think there are a range of ways in which partners can support GP consortia going forward. I think there's a range of functions and areas of expertise that consortia are going to need. These have been defined by the Department of Health, and there are 6 kind of buckets of support that range from commissioning and commercial skills through to patient-public engagement, backroom functions, and a number of others. I think the challenge is to think about some of what the speakers have talked about this morning around new models for commissioning, around thinking about some of the big problems that need to be tackled around long-term conditions, around being able to engage with the population. And I think there's a whole range of ways in which the private sector can support in those too. I think they can support through technology and licensed technology, I think through consulting and advising groups, but also through delivery of services and potentially over time towards sharing risk with groups of consortia in doing so. I think what we really need to be mindful of then are what are the opportunities for partnering in doing that. Partnerships between perhaps the NHS commissioning consortia, units, support units alongside the private sector, either with some subcontractual arrangements or potentially joint ventures that could work together over time.
You mentioned how important it is for these commissioning arrangements to look different from the current commissioning arrangements with PCTs. Why, briefly, is that important, and how do you think they will differ in the new world?
I think there's 2 points to make here. One is that we know that we didn't get the success with PCT commissioning that we might have wanted to as we set out along that journey. So it's important not to replicate where we've been before, particularly given the scale of the quality improvement, productivity prevention agenda that we're dealing with. But the second is a more positive take, which is really that there's real potential in harnessing the clinical leadership of the consortia and actually taking that to another level with commissioning. And I think the support therefore needs to be tailored around that and harnessing the value of that.
Now, you also mentioned that you were in a meeting recently between private providers and GPs, and the disconnect that was there, that private providers all believe that in the new process services should be provided by external providers, and all the GPs were there believed that the services should be provided in-house.
Yeah.
Clearly there is a square that needs to be circled, so to speak.
Yeah.
How is that going to happen?
So I think that the question for the GPs was not about whether their support should come from one sector or another, but more about whether they did it themselves or whether they looked externally to, whether it be the PCTs or the social enterprise or the private sector to get support. I think the big issue for them will be looking at their running costs allowance and really evaluating what they can deliver at a local level within the cost envelope that they will have. And I think rapidly we'll realise actually to get the level of to get the range of functionality that they will need, they're going to have scale in some areas, and therefore whether it is actually the private sector or the public sector that they look to get that support, I think that will be very much driven by first of all the cost envelope, and secondly, as they become more mature, their realisation of what they can and can't do in-house.
From your perspective then, what changes would you like to see post-listening exercise?
So I think that some of the value around clinical commissioning and harnessing that clinical expertise in driving change for the better is an important thing not to lose. From our perspective, we believe that companies such as ourselves have some value to offer then in supporting those clinical consortia to move forward. From my perspective, I'd be keen to see that opportunity in the future.
Thank you very much.